would have thought that a woman in Engadine, another woman in the Washington, D.C. area, and a dog in California would have an unbreakable bond? They do, and it's through the extraordinary life-saving gift from a boy named Rohen.
If you were to ask some of his friends, they would say he was the funny kid in the class, but he was also the smarty pants that would get in trouble. But he was also the kid that anybody who needed math help would go to. When he was in 4th grade, we decided some of the behaviors that we're having in the classroom were actually due to him being bored. He tested at a 9th grade math level in 4th grade. So he just loved math, and he loved the computer aspect of math as well. He was a wild, crazy, fun child, but he had the biggest caring heart. Like, if he saw someone sad, he would go out of his way to make sure that they felt better.
This is Candy Labadee speaking about her son Rohen, who had dreams for his future.
He either wanted to do canine handling in the police or do bomb sniffing dogs as a Marine, because his dad is a Marine, so Marines are the best in our world.
Rohen was just in the 5th grade when he passed away in 2022 due to a brain aneurysm.
That was due to a birth defect that no one would have ever known about or found or anything, and it just happened to be his time to go. So we rushed down to the Helen DeVos Hospital in Grand Rapids, and he was gone by the time that we were able to get there.
Candy lost her boy, but there was still more of him to give.
A few years prior to that, my younger brother, had passed away from cancer, and they were able to donate his eyes. And Rohen always thought that was so cool that someone was walking around being able to see because of his Uncle TJ. So when we lost him, we would do what Rohen would have done, and we donated. Rohen was able to donate 7 different organs, both eyes, and tons of tissues and bones, which led to over 20 people being impacted by his donations.
One of those recipients was Wendy Ryan, about 850 miles away in the Washington, D.C. area.
I got sick the year Rohen was born, and so for the entirety of Rohen's life, I was getting sicker and sicker until the point that, for the 4 years leading up to my transplant, I was no longer able to eat or drink, and I was subsisting on what's called total parenteral nutrition. My life was literally closing in on itself. I was getting sicker and sicker and weaker, and all of the available options that the doctors had were no longer becoming as effective as they once were. And my small bowel, despite numerous surgeries, was no longer able to sustain me. And so it was literally, I was on my last days. I was, as my friends would later tell me, I was becoming transparent. I would fall asleep mid-sentence, and, I was going to bed at night, literally not knowing if I was going to wake up the next morning. I spent 4 months on the transplant waiting list, waiting for a new small bowel. And when that call came, it was my final shot. It was my only shot.
And because of Rohen's gift, this has brought new life to both Wendy and Candy.
He's given me back life itself. Here I am 2 years later. My surgery was in February of 2022, and I'm eating again. I don't have any more tubes, and I'm able to enjoy life again.
Wendy is the newest member of my family. This connection has been life-changing, not only for Wendy because it literally changed her life, but for myself, because when you lose someone, you lose a lot of yourself, and a lot goes with that. And through the connection and chatting with her and getting to know her and love her has brought back so much of my old self and my old soul. It's very healing. The amazing gift that she gives me of carrying on Rohen's legacy, because everything she does for him.
Wendy's brother, the chief of police in Campbell, California, has been able to help in remembering Rohen by naming the department's newest canine, Rohen.
I think a lot about Rohen's legacy and, the impact that he's made, not just on my life, but so many. My brother and I were talking about that after my surgery, and we're very close, and we were talking about it, and he said to me, I was telling him how Rohen had wanted to be a canine officer, and he said, what would you think if we named our new canine after Rohen and called him Canine Rohen? And immediately I started crying, and I knew I had to ask Candy first, but what better way to honor someone than to keep talking about them and to keep their name alive, and to be able to have people remember them, and to be able to talk about organ donation every day.
During one of our conversations, she brought that up, and my husband and I were like, really? The canine Rohen? Like, that's the coolest thing ever. And when Rohen would get super excited, we would call him Happy Hands, and he would go like this. So as soon as I saw that, all I can picture is him up in heaven going, oh, a puppy, a puppy. And so just being able to have those things that she does that doesn't seem like a whole bunch is so, so beautiful and precious and meaningful to me.
And then to tell people about this amazing little boy who did so much in the time that he was here, it all matters. And the more that we do to talk about it, it changes lives. People ask about how did he get his name? And people then tell the story. And every time someone asks, and every time someone is given the opportunity to hear, that reverberates. You throw a stone into a pond and it doesn't just land once, it makes ripples.
When I wrote the letter to all the recipients, I just wanted them to know that it was okay. Yeah, we lost our son, but this is a gift for you. Don't feel bad. Don't feel guilty. Like, this is for you. Live life, love life. Be a happy, crazy little kid just like him. Even if you're 46, be a happy, crazy kid. I always had that fear of when I lost Rohen that I've lost him, but I haven't. This has made his legacy and his memory keep giving and giving and giving. And that's what I want. I want people to be aware of the humanity side of organ donation. It's not just about all the science and that sort of stuff. It impacts lives in ways that you could never imagine.
Rohen's family has been trying to make the trip from Engadine to California to meet Canine Rohen. They have a GoFundMe page to make that dream possible, which we will link for you to this story on upmatters.com.